Hello and welcome to South Carolina's 2022 Offensive Football Scheme Review. I'm your guide on this journey, SEC StatCat, Clark Brooks. So in this video, we're going to have 3 words that help sum up this offense, some tactical changes that brought about verticality near the end of the season, as well as what this offense wanted to do on first and third down with core, pass, and run staple breakdowns. So the first word that comes to mind when trying to sum up this offense, and there's no getting around it, is mistake prone. That's what you get when you log the SEC's worst negative play rate. That's what you get when you log a bottom 3 havoc rate for the second straight year. This is what you get when you log a broken play rate over 20%. Only one other offense the last 4 years within the SEC managed to do just that. And as you can imagine, their rush yards before contact clip was in the bottom 2 of the conference. Almost a half yard separated them from the next team in line in the rankings. And when looking at Spencer Rattler individually, he took the 3rd most sacks and tossed the 3rd most interceptable passes in the SEC. As a result, he logged a bottom 5 turnover-worthy play rate within the conference. As you can imagine, pretty mistake-prone offense. And that leads us into our next word, inconsistent. It's really tough to be good down to down when you're constantly dealing with havoc and trying to erase mistakes. South Carolina finished with a subpar yards per attempt and success rate. And speaking of inconsistent, just think of the 1 week turnaround from the Florida game to the Tennessee game, when you're looking like one of the most inept offenses in the country to hanging a 60 burger against a top 10 team. What's also inconsistent about this offense was its operation. So this was one of 5 SEC offenses with its lead look in meaningful minutes or most rep concept, finishing with a play share under 8%. And that was really aligned with the pass game. Basically, 71% of South Carolina's pass patterns this past season were a unique look within a game. So, ignoring repeats or flipping the play to the other side of the formation or having a minor route tag, if it was like mesh and you wanted to change a post to a corner or something like that, those were excluded. Only 28.5% of South Carolina's pass patterns this past season were repeats. Speaking to that, the games that had a clip above 30%, 4 of those 5 games resulted in wins. And of the clips with a percentage below 20%, 3 of those 4 games resulted in losses. So it remains to be seen if that inconsistency in terms of hodgepodge operation or in terms of down-to-down results will carry over with a new play caller in town. And our final word to describe this offense is kinetic. Year over year, pre-snap motion went down, but South Carolina finished top 5 in terms of all motion plays in meaningful minutes within the SEC. Moreover, they were also top 5 in yards per play. Looking at individual motions, pre-snap motion, even though it went down year over year, they still finished above the SEC average. Jet motion, they finished over the SEC average. Orbit motion, they finished over the SEC average in terms of usage. And these plays had a good effect on the bottom line. I already mentioned yards per play. It was enhanced and it finished inside the SEC's top 5. But also, success rate, broken play rate, and yards before contact all improved when this offense used motion. So a lot of people are curious on what exactly South Carolina did to unlock a little bit of explosiveness within this offense to close the season. And the simplest answer, they took more downfield shots. So Spencer Rattler, I have called him a check down Charlie just because of the modus operandi behind this offense early in the season. He had one of the lower average depth of targets. He constantly leaned on screens and RPOs to buoy his down-to-down production. But over the last 3 games, his deep pass rate more than doubled. Over the first 10 games, only 29 deep pass attempts. That's roughly 10.4% of his usage. Compare that to the last 3 games, that shot up to 22.1%, 26 by volume. He almost had as many deep pass attempts the last 3 games of the season than he had the entire season coming in. The results are hard to argue. His any adjusted net passing yards per attempt went from 5.8 to 8.7. That would have been at least above average and borderline top 5 clip within the SEC. Speaking to that, had South Carolina maintained that explosive pass rate over its last 3 games of the season across the entire schedule, it only would have trailed Georgia's within the conference. So yes, while divide, sail, floods were featured a little bit more, so were screens and RPOs by volume. But still, it was leaning into the vertical pass game. Of course, big pass plays are easier to come by when you target them as opposed to try and lean into yak-oriented designs and put all the heavy lifting into the hands of wide receivers. To start a set of downs, South Carolina sought to establish a little bit form of physicality as well as testing the perimeter with rinky-dinky pass patterns. Overall, the pass game did drive the operation. Only two other offenses in meaningful minutes within the SEC had a higher pass rate on first downs than the Gamecocks. But when looking at their script, counter, duo dive, inside zone slant read, counter read, and two-back power veer were among their most repped looks. Looking at the passes, only two logged more than 9 targets, them being RPO bubble screens and Convoy jailbreak screens. So that should just tell you how this modus operandi definitely wanted to lean inside and help get defenses peeking there before taking advantage of stuff outside. To that point, play action, RPOs, they were used on only a moderate amount compared to the rest of the SEC, but screens were sky high. 8.4% screen rate on first down. When looking at the returns though, lead look counter, while it was a decent source for potent gains, down to down, like a lot of these other plays, not the best. 35.5% success rate. Duo dive, only a 30% success rate. Counter read, under a 42% success rate. Again, South Carolina, in general, bottom 6 success rate on first down, but when looking at runs specifically, bottom 5 within the SEC. Looking at that poor rush yards before contact, it's pretty obvious why the pass game was maximized in those situations to try and bring about a little bit more down-to-down results and try and avoid their downs. South Carolina had an overall tendency to take to the skies, but that was further heightened on third down. Only Alabama had a higher pass rate within the SEC than the Gamecocks in these spots. And the reasoning? Well, no SEC offense averaged more distance to gain in our meaningful minutes sample than the Gamecocks, nearly 8 yards on average. So that definitely helped them lean into the pass game. And looking at their core looks, mesh was far and away their most targeted pass pattern. Like on first down, roughly 62% of the script was made up of looks outside of its core concepts, but still, it is nice to see that they had a concept they could lean on. So that is Dagger, Sail, all verts, smashes, duo dive, and duo jab, which had a higher concentration on short yardage tries. Speaking to short yardage tries, this was a major backstep from this offense to see that only Mississippi State had a worse success rate with 3 yards or less to go on third downs within our sample than the Gamecocks. So moving forward, the best third down offense is an offense that avoids third downs the best. So will logins help generate some more efficiency where these downs can be avoided, or will it be more of the same in 2023? So that was some of the macro ideas behind this operation, but now it's time to dive in to the nitty-gritty and examine the concepts themselves and where they came up short or succeeded. So let's start with South Carolina's lead run look and the duo dive. By default, duo dive finished as this offense's most repped look in meaningful minutes. It was the only concept to generate more than 40 tries, despite finishing with below an 8% play share. That's got to be one of the lowest clips in the conference among a lead look. Either way, whether it is a short yardage try to a fullback, just trying to plug ahead and take advantage of the divergence up front with double teams, very rarely paired with RPOs, but in our sample, a good chunk of them occurred from 12 or 13 personnel sets. So those are sets with one back, 2 or 3 tight ends. And like you can see here, it's an A set with 1, 2 tight ends. So you can argue that Spencer Rattler probably could have targeted this outbreaker. It looks like Georgia State is going to be in a single high type of zone coverage here. So assuming that this linebacker or flank defender cannot beat our outbreaker outside the numbers, it should be an easy target. And you can actually see it is pretty open. But we're going to take our size advantage against a lesser team and trying to impose our will. So the duo dive, named because ideally you can get a double team at the point of attack. And that's right here. So we're going to have an out block from our tackle and a down block to double from our guard center there. Same thing on the other side. We're going to get a double team there with our tight end coming out. But with the line basically occupied, this is trying to take care of immediate threats, people that can make the play at the line of scrimmage. Very rarely do you see duo dives engage with linebackers. So they are left untouched. So I'm sorry, tight end is actually going to be engaged on this guy. These two linebackers are going to be untouched. Both of them are going to flow, play side, trying to fill, thinking it might be some type of zone block, but of course, if they do that, that is when our back is taught to bounce it towards space. And this is exactly what he does, and he gets an explosive carry. All in all on the season, only 7 10-plus yard carries from this concept. So not necessarily something that was, incendiary whatsoever. Again, it was turned to in short yardage situations, and it was overly plotting. You can tell from the opening graphic just how muted it was overall. But we can see here, there's our down block, there's our hole. We're not even going to worry about this guy. He's going to come in and try and fill. Same on the other side. He's going to come in and try and fill, but they're going to basically seal themselves off since our end man on the line is able to occupy, and how this corner safety position just doesn't do a good job trying to locate and rally the ball, because he himself peeks inside, and with all eyes inside, we're bouncing outside. So we make him miss, and we get a good gain from the duo dive. So all in all, even though it finished as this offense's lead look, it was a lot more sporadic in terms of usage. Here's another explosive rep from the duo dive from this offense. So of the 76 featured duo dives, 34 came from these tight bunch formations. That is a very common tactic across all of college football, not just in the SEC. But we're still going to get our play side double team here. Divergence, but on either side of the double team, both of those divergences. So our backside guard and our front side tight end lose ground, and it forces a bounce to space. Now, fortunately for us, our backside sealers do their job. So even though there's going to be instant penetration in there, we're able to at least seal him off. And then our guard is able to get up on this linebacker, and our tackle is able to root out that edge. So even though we have a little bit of a numbers advantage front side, because if it's a two deep safety look, we're able to spend an extra hat on what is available for defenses. So we'll, again, drawing it up, 2-on-1 right there, even though 1-on-1 there, 1-on-1 there, 1-on-1 there, basically across the board. Yeah, we're using 2-on-1. So ideally, that's where we want to hit, right? That's where we're putting all those bodies there, is to get that numbers advantage, particularly with vacated box counts. But again, really good job to blow this tight end off the ball and get inside penetration to really almost break this play, because this is a really good display of vision from Jaheim Bell. So let's remind you, even though he's not going to be with this offense last year, he's a tight end doing this type of stuff. So yes, you can see how the tight end blown back, inside penetration, but you at least seal them. And again, with them rooting out and going towards the next level, a new hole is created, because with this safety filling coming from the outside, it's a really tough angle to come flat with a full head of steam and then snake around to make a play. You'll see he has an opportunity, but it's an arm tackle nonetheless. And again, it is a tight end he's trying to tackle. So really good display of might and vision from Jaheim Bell on the duo dive. Counters without a read element were one of this offense's most potent run concepts. Nearly 24% of its attempts gained 10 yards or more. Fantastic. There was a stretch across 23 reps where it logged 12 explosive carries, but unfortunately, across its last 20 reps, dead zero. So yes, it is a very inconsistent look, as you saw from a sub 40% success rate. But this teach tape right here is a fantastic rep. So even though this is against Charlotte, not a good defense whatsoever, this is exactly how you would like to draw up counters. So backside guard, trapper on the end man line of scrimmage, offset tight end fullback, snaking through that, being your lead blocker wrapper to cover your butt. You have a down block from your center, down block to double from your front side combo tackle guard. Tackle is going to snake back on that linebacker and prevent him from having any difference on this play. And our backside tackle is just going to kick out that guy. So the motion is going to pull over this linebacker. So that's one less guy in the box. And with Charlotte in a 2-deep shell. That's another guy who's not going to be in run filling position. So this is going to be a big gainer. It appears to be cover 2 man just because of how he follows him across the formation. But either way, counter, very effective against 2 high looks when you have vacated boxes. So you can see how 29 is pulled across the formation. You get our down blocks securing our play. No penetration that could doom the play from the get-go. You'll get our trap and our wrap with that tackle going back on that linebacker. So wham 1, wham 2, and even though we don't get a wham 3, he is a barrier between him and the ball carrier, and the safety comes down to try and fill, but whoop! Hurdle, touchdown. Yeah, big type of potency from this look, but again, with a sub 40% success rate, you hate the inconsistency it brought. Here's another explosive carry from a 12 personnel set from non-read counter. Again, of the 73 featured counters, 55 did not have a read aspect. In our sample of the 40, 27 came from 12 or 13 personnel. Ace formation, 2 tight end set. This is a fairly messy rep, to say the least. So ideally, this is not how I would like to draw up this play. But either way, you'll see it still results in a big gainer. So covering our butt on the backside, down blocks. It looks like we're going to try and trap that guy as opposed to our 4-eye, edge on the interior. This is freshman All-American John Walker. He absolutely has the attention of both this tight end and tackle on the front side of this rep. So you'll see, ideally, you would like to have a double here down towards that linebacker, leaving this guy for our backside wrapper to lead block and occupy. But that is not how this works out. Basically, because how Walker has his attention for a beat, and this linebacker comes with a full head of steam, he has an opportunity to have a tackle for a loss on this play. He does not, and because of that, UK is down a guy, and we're able to still get our lead blocker to space, since this linebacker is also unsure of where to fill. So poor rep from the Wildcats outside of this linebacker and Walker. All in all, still good results despite a fairly poor process from South Carolina. So you can see here, Walker's kind of stunning out. At that point, no point for a down block to even mess with that. He should have come down right away, especially because how I said this linebacker is coming with full head of steam. He gets in the backfield. He goes around both of our lead blockers with an opportunity to just completely blow this up. Almost does. But even though there's a little bit of confusion on this cracker, see, he should not be touching the guy we're trying to trap. He should be going up on one of these safeties. Not a good idea, but it still works out for South Carolina. He pushes him into the trap. He is then trapped. Once our ball carrier has forward momentum, we're able to have a hat-on-hat in space and spring a big gainer. So all in all, again, a fairly inconsistent look, non-read counters, but nonetheless a fairly explosive look with nearly a quarter of its tries across the season gaining at least 10 yards. The inside zone slam read, a natural complement to the duo dive. Unlike seeing divergence and double teams at the point of attack, we have zone combo blocks. So on those divergences, for instance, if this was our double, kick out, they're all kind of working different ways, trying to create hard edges. Moreover, if the run was working that way, doubles typically work against the grain of the flow. On zones, they all work the same way. So if the run is going that way, trying to double the combo to the second level, double the combo to the second level. You get the idea. But this is a rep where this linebacker here is going to force a cutback alley, and because we do our job on the backside, it's going to result in a pretty good rep. So inside zone slam read, it's a very basic look across all levels of football. And even though it lost a little bit of popularity in this offense, it still was featured overall a decent amount. in our meaningful minutes, its 48% success rate was actually one of the highest among its featured runs. So nothing really to dismiss, even though its efficiency wasn't next level. So with our in-man untouched and our zone combos working away, this is how the play is going to basically work out. Here's our combo trying to work towards that linebacker, but we're not going to get a hand on him. He is able to force our hand, but because how this guard can get up to the second level, we really can have a little bit of the business here. So we also have a backside there. Trying to work up, ideally, doesn't work out on this play. This corner is going to have an opportunity to make the play, but if you're designing runs and you can only have one guy untouched, a corner is a good person to do it. Again, on average, they are smaller than safeties. They are less sound tacklers than safeties. So we want to try their hand of making plays in the open field in that regard. So we'll watch it play out here. Watch the vision as this linebacker kind of beats us to, I guess, that B gap there. The combo doesn't get off in time, and so it's a good recognition to put your foot in the ground and get north and south. So with them basically sealing him and our tackle reaching that interior and rooting him out, really good job. In addition, with that second level block, we're able to spring a big gainer. So seal, root out. There's our new hole. Zones, very good job building in cutback lanes in the design. And it's basically 11, 12 yards before contact before we add on a chunk after that. Here is a rep of the slam read with an RPO tag. So dual-headed RPOs, particularly with inside zones, they're nothing new. You know, some offenses do dual tunnels, some people do dual bubbles, or vice versa on individual reps or paired together. But you can see here with the defense basically in a single high look how it divulges to one-on-one outside with only one guy back. And in the box, it's an advantage for the offense. We have 7 versus 6. So with our read option designed to not block a guy by design, we continue to add to our numbers advantages. So when we pull here, you'll actually see that Rattler's eyes are up. He's actually trying to test the latency of this backer. Will he go towards the flat, or will he kind of stay a little bit more to where his current position is? Because if he heads towards the flat, well, that's going to open up a lot more run avenue with the entire defense pulled by the zone flow. But if he stays pat, we get a block there, that's a lot of green grass for him to try and work around to corral that tunnel screen. So we'll draw it up here, play side tackle, going to take on that edge, combo block towards the second level, same on the backside, again leaving this edge untouched. So he's taking kind of a wide path before coming down. Good decision by Rattler to keep. So he wasn't really much of a quarterback keeper, but it's still in the design for the potential. And it goes for 10 plus yards. Only 6 attempts on the season gained more than 10 yards, and 4 of them were against Charlotte and South Carolina State. So 50% of the yards overall from this concept came from those carries. So it should tell you how plodding it was down to down, despite a 40% success rate being one of the more higher ones among their featured runs. So let it play out. You can see the edge defenders untouched. Testing these guys' space integrity with our zone blocks, basically pulling our linebackers away, so they're not going to be any bit of a difference on this play. Rattler keeps. Eyes are up. He's looking to how they're going to manage it. They're playing back and off, so he's just going to run towards green grass. Pretty good decision here from Rattler. So again, not overall too potent or explosive, but it helped pair with the duo dive nicely and help round out South Carolina's run game. So while the majority of counters did not have any read aspect to them, I wanted to at least drop one example that did. So at snap motion, jet motion, we've seen this on a couple other plays, but I forgot to mention in the other counter video, you saw a decent amount of shoot motion counters, whether with read or without. So that is using jet motion, at snap motion, to add an extra gap on the other side of center. You're being a functional blocker as opposed to just eye candy to space. So in doing that on that play, you would have your typical down blocks, trap, but again, the wrap just has a little bit extra momentum and is moving at the snap. So this is just traditional jet motion, counter going towards the right. So we're covering our butt with our puller, covering our butt, washing down that edge, trapping him, lead blocking, wrapping him, because with this little extra read aspect, Rattler has an opportunity to keep it or dump it off towards the flat with that guy running that jet bubble here. So there's our read defender for Rattler, and there's our read defender for the pass. You'll see here he takes a very wide path. Tackle is more concerned with doing a little bit of a drop step to try and prevent penetration. He doesn't mind giving off the edge because of how the elements of the play facilitate that. So we'll watch it play through. In motion, widens his path, gets his attention. We know it's going to be a give situation. On the give situation, pretty good job to cover our butt. Like I said, wash all three of those guys inside, leaving this fellow for our trapper and that guy for our wrapper. And it ends up being a pretty good rep for South Carolina. Exactly what you want to create that hole. And a really good explosive rep from a converted tight end in Jaheim Bell. While most of South Carolina's core run concepts wanted to run between the bookends, here was their most rep perimeter run. 19 reps on the season, and of those 19, 10 were over the last 2 weeks, primarily from these tight bunch formations featuring a bubble screen RPO. So this is a tactic a lot of teams like to do. Particularly if you're setting up that duo dive action from tight bunch formation. So back is aligned to the 3-man surface, tight bunch, it signifies duo, very common tactic across the SEC and across football in general. So what's the next idea if the defense is going to anticipate something like that? Go outside. So on either side of the formation, you are testing the perimeter. First with this bubble screen, and on the other side of the formation, an outside zone. So unlike inside zones that try and get a little bit more north and south in reach and seal, a lot more flat path from the offensive line, all about trying to secure the adjacent gap. So it looks like on this play, both of these defenders are going to be untouched. In theory, you would think one would be your pass key, and the second one would be your keep key. Either way, it works out to where they're both jumping towards that strength, like that duo dive, and we're just going to work away from that. So on the front side, we're sealing that guy. We're going to eventually wash that linebacker away because he over pursues. Our center is able to reach him. Great job from our guard to get to him. And our tackle is going to actually go up on that linebacker again with these guys being untouched. But we'll watch it play out here. Much more flat path, as I mentioned, on outside zones. Even though we didn't target this could have been a fairly decent target opportunity in the flat here. But great example of reachings and seal from an offensive line that really struggled at doing that this season. So all in all, outside zone read, this was the only explosive carry. Again, it was definitely featured more towards the end of the year, but an outside run wrinkle that remains to be seen if it were to be featured in 2023. End arounds, a very explosive wrinkle within this offense. Of the 9 attempts, 4 of them went for 10 yards, and this was definitely one of the more creative wrinkles, setting up triple option off of jet orbit return motion. That's right. So jet, orbit, return, motion, fake triple option, end around. So this requires the offensive line to kind of break rules that would normally set up this play. On an inside zone triple option, obviously you're working that way. But UK is going to be sold towards the right side of the formation, and then our offensive line is then just trying to seal them. Again, with the action trying to get the defense going this way, end rounds all about going the other way. So in addition to having it paired with this triple option, it was also seen with split zone as well as counter on occasion. Again, 16 featured snaps, had some type of end around action. All in all, 9 attempts. So we'll watch how the defense is reacting to this. You can see how there's a massive flow towards the right. That's exactly what we kind of want. Defense gets the edge thinking that way. This tackle eventually is going to leak back out to space, but everyone else just sealing them, trying to sell that action towards this way. So all about the eye candy. UK is in desperation mode, trying to get another stop behind the chains, and their aggressiveness is thwarted. So we're going to have a crack here. After the play fake, running back is going to go out and try and be a little bit of lead blocker. Like I said, once the tackle feels the edge is secured, he also is going to give an extra body out to space, but it's just going to be a really poor job by UK to recognize. Everyone else is sealed. We get our running back in space on a safety and a tackle leading the way as well. So really, really nice rep from South Carolina to generate a scoring play on an end around. Interesting enough, only 3 other concepts generated a better success rate in meaningful minutes than this razzmatazz look. All right, now let's shift our focus and start talking about the core pass staples. I already mentioned there wasn't a whole lot of carryover from week to week or even across the entire season in terms of pass staples. Still, they had favorite looks, and let's start with the most targeted in our sample, RPO Bubble Screens. It's pretty difficult not to call this a rinky-dinky offense when RPO Bubble Screens finished as the most targeted concept in meaningful minutes. On the season, 90 featured snaps, 28 targets, and of those 28, 26 fell squarely in our perimeter. But across the entire season, since this is an outlet towards space, and South Carolina did not necessarily have the best yak outlets, none of them went for over 20 yards. And despite being designed to get the ball when the offense has either a numbers or, in this particular case, a space advantage, it is designed to bring about good efficiency. A sub 50% success rate on this concept in meaningful minutes. That is not what you'd like to see, especially since it was the lead look of this offense. But like our previous example, outside zone RPO from tight bunch formation back towards that side, signifying it could be potentially duo. So with the defense thinking inside run, we're going outside run, testing the lateral strength with outside zone and a perimeter bubble. So at the top of the screen, it's going to be 3 versus 3. So block here, and the only other guy left in the play is that safety, and that is a lot of distance and a lot of space for him to figure things out. In man on the line of scrimmage, like our last rep, he is left untouched just in case Spencer Rattler wanted to keep this ball, but again, that really wasn't part of his game. Definitely a hot potato type of rep. Pre-snap, recognition, take advantage of what the defense gives you in this 3-on-3 matchup. Here's an example of a unique mesh rep going towards the running back. So all in all, 36 featured snap from this concept. It was most featured against Tennessee, Georgia, and Missouri. So basically 7% of this passing game. But all in all, in our meaningful minutes, second most targeted concept. So yeah, you can see from the top of the screen, there's a lot of mess. That's what you're trying to do. You're basically creating a Frasian horse, getting the defense sealed inside, and then a one-on-one matchup in space through this rub variety. Now, you won't always see a true mesh on the running back meshes here. So, you have those two intersecting crossers, the signifying routes for a mesh pattern. But nonetheless, it's really, really tough for defenses to navigate in certain situations. So this also showed up in the red zone a handful of times. All in all, 4 are mesh targets. Mesh Dagger, which we'll talk about a little bit, was the most common form along with the killing mesh. But let's draw it up You can see right away that this tight end has very little urgency to run a route. You'll see our crossers, and then like you'll see on the Kelly mesh, kind of a sit hook, kind of be an obstacle in space for somebody who is inside with man coverage to go over top and work through. It's just kind of a really messy rub, as you can imagine, but with 3 different routes going against the grain of where that drag's going and where our running back who's trying to snake through the formation as opposed to run a swing screen or an orbit motion flare like you would see on other forms of mesh. He's going right through the line, trying to really confuse coverages and accentuate the rub aspects of this play. So again, kind of bending back, going, Frasian horse. Really, really tough to match up in space, working through all that type of stuff. And when you have a flat feet looking towards the middle of the field and a route's going towards the outside, good pattern to draw up a man beater there. So all in all, mesh, not something that was particularly too explosive for this offense. It is a short-minded attack, and seeing that it only had a 37.5% success rate in meaningful minutes should tell you it left plenty to be desired, no matter what variation. So here's the most popular mesh pattern within this offense this past year, pairing the intersecting drags of mesh with the middle seam bender and deep dig of Dagger. So we'll talk about when the Dagger part is targeted a little bit later. This is all about focusing on mesh. So usually mesh, you'll see those 2 middle guys be the intersecting crossers, but on this route, we're going to have our X receiver be the second intermediate crosser with our middle guys doing the Dagger portion of the play. So UK is in a single high coverage. Looks like everyone's going to be man. They're going to bring 5 with another guy in a spy. So there's going to be no help along the underneath avenues of this coverage. And with 2 intersecting drags, that's a lot of real estate for both of these guys to follow that route. I mean, you can see as is, that's a lot of pre-snap cushion that he's giving this route. And you could potentially argue this route could have been targeted for another explosive gain. Even though this one is targeted in a off-target pass, kind of throws off the timing a little bit. It doesn't matter. It's so freaking wide open because there's just no one else there that could potentially cap this look. So all in all, 16 mesh Dagger targets or mesh Dagger snaps on the year. The second most popular pattern, which is the most popular pass pattern in all of football, is the rail mesh or Kelly mesh in my vernacular. So that is the running back swing with your 2 intermediate crossers, play side sit hook, and then either a fade on the outside or a corner on the outside. So, again, we're here to talk about mesh Dagger, and we'll watch it play out. Our guy at the top of the screen just cannot keep up with us, and there's just so much room to work. Right away, boom, he loses inside, and with the other corner being pulled from the drag going the other way, just a lot of space to work with all in all. So even though it wasn't the most potent or down-to-down successful look in meaningful minutes, again, meshes, when targeted, only a 35.7% success rate, but this mesh Dagger pairing did bring about a number of explosive gains, whether it was mesh targeted or the 2-man Dagger that was targeted. Sail. It's a 3-man strong side flood consisting usually of a vertical, outbreaker, and outlet towards the flat, creating that stack, intentionally trying to outnumber one side of the zone coverage. So strong side floods, usually people are coming from the strength as opposed to weak side floods coming from opposite. So like if this was wide cross from a typical 2x2 set, the flood is coming away towards where we're working from as opposed to the routes already being on that side of the strength. So this is an example using play action counter. Very clever way to have a complementary aspect within this scheme. Of course, counter was the second most repped run and one of their more successful in terms of potency. So getting the defense, thinking about that behind the chains at a typical time when they did turn to counter, and just a nice reverse path from our tight end in the backfield. But get Rattler on the move outside the pocket where he has historically been his most dangerous. So we'll let you play out. Defense is clearly occupied by the counter action. You can see Raheem Bell fake like he's going to be the wrapper action, the lead blocker action on counter before returning towards the flat. And then we just have a vertical outbreaker type of situation. So in terms of coverage, if this was like cover 4, for instance, 4 deep defenders, then it just becomes basically a one-on-one route. You would hope to think that this outside guy has leverage. If this was single high towards the flat, then it's the same idea where he has deep, he has short. You're trying to make him guess wrong, whether attacking the flat or staying back for that intermediate outbreaker. But watch it play out here. It looks to be more like, cover 4, cover 6, where it's going to be more one-on-one aspects outside the numbers, but it's going to be a nice, sharp outbreaker and a nice ball from Rattler. Boom, to get our completion there. So all in all, 3 explosive targets across 22 on the season. All in all, it was featured on 24 snaps. So when it was featured, Sale was overly targeted, whether it was in this play action boot aspect, other rollouts, or designs where it was paired with swaps or backside digs. So, for instance, on Sale swaps, you'll see some teams like Alabama do this, but it's just manipulating the routes a little bit. So he's going to be the outbreaker. He'd be a vertical stressor. He would work to the flat. But all in all, regardless of where your 3-man stack occurs, it is going to be a vertical, out, and a flat. And all in all, the Sale concept, when targeted in our sample, not particularly great with a sub 32% success rate, but it was a complementary aspect nonetheless in this offense, particularly off of play action. Dash Sale. Now this is something to monitor. Daryl Loggins is coming from Arkansas, and over the last 3 seasons, Dash Sale has shown up each season, basically commanding at least double-digit targets. So this is another example to get Rattler on the move and help him be his best self outside the pocket. So Dash is basically delayed rollout. Now, you will also see typically the running back lined up on the other side of the formation and him work the flat this way to facilitate our 3-man stack, like I mentioned. But on this rep, for whatever reason, he's going away. Typically on Dash Sales, you will see an alert towards the top of the screen on this 1-man route, either being an out route or a quick curl. If it's single high, you're just going to take that pitch and catch opportunity. In this rep, it looks to be cover 4. At least that is how I am translating it. So him here, him here, him here, him here, with 3 underneath. So with these 2 guys basically defending this entire portion of the field, you get one guy to push deep and another guy to break out his route towards the perimeter. But with Rattler getting outside the pocket, it's just a really simple high-low type of read, or in this instance, a one-on-one matchup to seeing who has the best leverage advantage. So all in all, 3 explosive targets from Sale across its 22 overall targets here. So we'll watch it play out. It was featured in the last 2 games 6 times. Previously, only 1 game had 3 reps, and that was Arkansas. So you can see how that flat route is getting the attention of not only this linebacker, but also this safety. Again, it's away from where we're working, but still, it gets them closer towards the line of scrimmage when we're trying to attack deep. There's no way he's going to sneak towards the middle of the field and potentially rob us. So with them thinking that way, we're just going to play a little 3-man ball outside. So Rattler escapes, throws. We have our outbreaker deep corner with our leverage, and we definitely get a leverage because here it doesn't make a whole lot of sense just to run straight up field. So you do want to have a little bit of a bend towards the middle, influence the defender that way, and then break back out towards the sideline when you have a lot more room to work. So very impressive catch by South Carolina here for the explosive touchdown off the Dash Sale concept. Divide 989 is a basic but effective shot plays, best against single high coverages. Now, It was highly featured in this Arkansas game. 41% of its reps in the season came in this game. And until the last 2 games of the season, it was overly faded. It did get 8 targets against Clemson and Notre Dame combined. But yeah, in the middle of the season, this overly went away. Your guess is as good as mine, because this was a staple in last year's offense as well, when they had less talent at the quarterback position. So 2 verts on the outside, those are your 9s, and in the middle, you have your 8 or your post. I am translating this as a single high man coverage. This is going to be a late rotation down. I think he's going to be more of a robber, but I'm thinking man on man in the backfield, man here, man here, man here, single high safety. You could also argue this is cover 4 with 4 deep defenders and 1, 2, 3 underneath. But because how both of our corners play this puppy with inside leverage, since we have, a safety basically playing inside as well, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to give up the perimeter like that. But, we'll see here. But anyway, we'll draw it up. Again, middle bender is going to occupy this guy and this guy, leaving those verticals with one-on-one matchups outside. So even though at the top of the screen, our corner is giving us vertical leverage, playing it to the inside, it gives us an opportunity to create a back shoulder catch. So we'll watch it play out here. Again, you can see how that bender pulls the gravity of our man coverage defender as well as that over top safety, leaving this with a one-on-one matchup. And look, he was prepared not to be beat deep on that play, but because how he's on the inside, there's a lot of green grass to place that. And even though this puppy is underthrown, it's a pretty much simple completion in terms of just going up and making a play. So we'll watch it from this view here. You can also see how our receiver has a little bit of an inside feign before going back out, just to get that defender further a little bit towards the inside, have his hips completely turned, and we're definitely throwing a true back shoulder opportunity here for a big gainer. All in all on the year, 8 explosive completions that went for 20 or more yards. So here is a shoot motion, play action counter, fake end around, divide completion. So only 4 of our divide patterns use play action this year. It was much more of a lineup, let's just go type of play, but definitely a very creative way to unlock it here against Clemson. So again, we're going to have a vertical and a post bender combination. It appears it's going to be cover 3 from Clemson. He's going to come down. He eventually is going to fade back. He's fade back, but going to win this because of leverage opportunities. Safety is going to be back, and even though this corner is responsible for this deep corridor, we're going to find an avenue between those 2 defenders with him up and none of these underneath defenders carrying the post vertically. So a lot of backfield eye candy definitely got their attention, and we're just trying to manipulate coverages on the back end to try and manufacture a deep completion. So shoot motion at snap, functional motion, pulling a lineman, play action, faking that in around. A lot of fun stuff going on in this play. You see how 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 defenders are occupied, and even how this middle or this deep third defender is even peeking towards the backfield, absolutely getting that safety towards, but you can see deep, and he's eventually going to fade. So that's a lot of space for our speedy slot to work with, and that's what we're going to do. So Rattler does buy a beat, but a really nice throw. I'm not going to love the landing. Oh, it's a terrible break for Josh Fan, but a really good route to push this guy back and then undercut it towards a lot of grass. So all in all, again, 8 explosive completions for the divide concept, whether with or without play action across the season. While this offense was able to execute divide 989 at enhanced efficiency compared to other SEC offenses, all Verts, not so much. So, very similar ideas. Divide, you have that middle bender. Verts, everyone basically going deep as well, but this is going to overload what I am thinking is cover 2 invert. So on normal cover 2, you're going to have a bump defender from your corners on the outside, 2 deep safeties, 1 middle hook defender or Tampa player, and then 2 flank defenders. On this play, we're turning our middle safety into that Tampa player. He's deep half, hook curl, bump, and bump. But as you can imagine, with deep route 1, deep route 2, deep route 3, deep route 4 deep routes are more than 3 deep defenders. And so this little shallow will keep both of these guys from dropping back into space and potentially running with us up the seam. It is a really wide open completion that just completely busts this coverage. It is the only explosive completion from this look in meaningful minutes. Only a 17.7% success rate. This absolutely was the golden gem from this scheme running all Verts. So we'll let you play out. There's a little shallow trying to keep him occupied as he's working towards the flat. But we'll see right away that bump defender's trying to force inside before we work back out. You can see this safety is running really hard trying to cap that. Basically the same thing on this side of the formation. But we'll skip ahead and we'll see how this route comes wide the hell open because of our bender here is going to occupy our safety and there's just no one else deep to cover it. Again, wide the hell open, enough space to make a big chunk touchdown play. The Wheelie Switch, it's growing in popularity across all levels of football, particularly within the SEC, as defenses go to more and more 2-deep coverages, using this off of play action or pairing it with a double post pattern have been great ways to utilize explosive gains and uncapped coverages. So here's an example against cover 4 from a nub set. So on this side of the formation, even though Tennessee is going to have 2 deep defenders, they're going to be completely taken out of this play. And since we're going to have 1, 2, 3 deep routes and only 2 deep defenders on this side of the formation, we're going to have a win. So this flank defender does not carry the wheel up the sideline, and this corner is put in a rock and a hard place trying to guard both of these guys with this middle post occupying our other deep 4th defender. So this is off of play action. You know, this did generate 4 explosive completions on the year, but it wasn't necessarily too consistent. I mean, it is a deep passing concept, but considering that divide generated a 42% success rate, it's a little that this came in below the 32% climb. Still better than all Verts, but still you would like just a tad more consistency from this look overall. 8.7 yards per target. Good, not great. So we'll watch it play out here, but we can just see how our secondary is immediately in a bind from this cover 4 look. So 1, 2, 3, 4 deep defenders. 1, 2, 3 deep routes against these 2 deep defenders. And again, Zero kind of recognizes it right away. He drives fairly well on this post. He's right there, but it's just an absolute dime from Rattler in stride. That is just the next level types of stuff that have people like me holding out hope that he can all put things together moving forward. But you can argue here, you can see with this wheel working outside and him not going, both of those routes were open, but good step up hitch rhythm from Rattler to get an explosive gain from the Wheelie Switch. So in addition to the double post wheel variety, for instance, if this was from like a 2x2 set, this was also seen with wheel post, as well as fake screen. So if this was like a fake bubble screen to space here, act like you're blocking towards the flat before continuing on your wheel. Act like you're going to block head up before continuing on your post. So all in all, that had 6 reps. Double post wheel had 5. The shallow under had 7. But this was certainly one of the more impressive snaps of the Wheelie Switch from South Carolina this past season. Here's another form of mesh dagger, but here we're going to talk about the latter, the dagger concept. Inside beam /go and a deep dig, a classic 2 deep beater, but this is going to be an instance of beating cover 3 Buzz. So our strong safety and linebacker are basically just going to swap normal positions. He's going to become a middle robber, and he's going to be guarding the flank, but everything else is basically the same. So with pressure on our middle of the field safety, with not 1 but 2 middle seams, he just naturally has to try and cap them. So he's going to be back on this play. You'll see in a second when we go to the behind the center view. But with him drawing back and this Buzz defender basically being caught in a compromising position against a dig route, we're going to be able to get a very, very nice completion, even though it is a single high coverage. So Mesh Dagger featured on about 16 snaps this season. Dagger was also featured with the corners concept, as well as solo curl and fades off of max protection. So good ball from Rattler. Good job buying a beat and securing a completion when behind the chains. Typically when you'd like to target Dagger, again, it's supposed to be a 2 deep beater, but here, very, very nice completion against a Buzz look. So you can see how the safety is coming up. And 1, 2, 3, that is 4 underneath. 1, 2, 3, 3 deep with 4 rushers. So our left tackle loses right away, but Rattler, you'll see, he'll step up and he delivers a pretty good ball over our underneath hook curl linebacker and beyond where that Buzz defender was drifting. About 20 yards downfield for depth of target, and we add on to it. So very, very nice. So we'll see it again, like I said, from behind the center. Pretty simple idea. Again, Mesh Dagger. He's going to be compromised because of those guys drawing back. Buzz guy is going to just be a little out of position for our nice dig throw. Spaces, it is a curl flat variety. Curl flat patterns finished as this offense's most successful look. Of course, last year, the first year under Marcus Satterfield, it was a look that helped their very, very modest arm talent at least try and bring about some consistency. It didn't always work, but it was a fairly noticeable pass pattern through parts of last season. Here, it delivered only 1 explosive pass pattern. Of course, looking at it, it is just meant to attack the underneath areas of coverages, and this is an example of doing just that. So across the 13 targets, most of our curl flat pass patterns were of the poker / Hank variety. Only 2 of these spacing patterns. So spacing is where number 3 from usually an empty or at least a bunch formation to say the least, where our inside man will run a search hook to space. Our number 2 will run a middle hook, and this guy will run a quick out route, being our opportunity to attack the flat. So on normal curl flat patterns, curl combos, whatever language you want to use around this, you would have number 1 running your hook, number 2 working the flat, and number 3 bidding your middle hook guy. So you can swap that around a lot of different ways, but generally speaking, for this offense, it was of the poker Hank variety, the last version I drew up. So all in all, 3 scrambles and 1 sack in addition to the 1 explosive play here. So it's pretty simple. Looks like Georgia is going to have cover 4, even though this is going to be kind of sticky down here. This doesn't exactly look like zone, but to me, it appears to be 4 deep and 3 underneath. So, there could have been potentially some opportunity to attack 3 routes in the same vicinity against potentially, 1 or 2 Georgia linebackers on this side of the formation. But because how this corner eventually gives up some vertical cushion, we're able just to hook up the space and play pitch and catch. So we'll let you play out here. Boom, like I said. So overall, nothing too complicated overall. You see curl flat pass patterns seen in all levels of football, and they are quite effective against sagging zones and single highs for wins. stick varieties had a high concentration of reps in South Carolina's early part of the season. They were kind of faded as things went along. For reasons, 0 explosive reps and 0 reps over 10 yards. So yeah, even though, this is designed to be a very conservative, easy, simple, underneath pass pattern to pick on 2 deep shells and the numbers to numbers, lateral mobility, coverage skills of linebackers, it just really did not bring a lot of potency for this offense. But it still featured, or it still finished with one of the highest success rates among its featured looks. So here is an example. Whether this is true cover 4 or a late rotation buzz, there's going to be a nice pitch and catch avenue to hit our tight end here. So he is looking just for a leverage opportunity. Obviously, if he is not going to be covered, he's just going to go to easy space. He's hit no reason to hook up towards the outside at all. On our number 2, he is running a slot fade, and number 1 being our threat towards the flat, a quick hitch towards base. On the top of the screen, you can see a lot of variety depending on the scheme. You can see another solo fade. You can see a slant. You can see a curl. Here in this case, we are indeed going to see a curl. But all in all, this rep really struggled to generate big gains for this offense. 0 completions over 10 yards. Not to hammer that in there, but sure. This was also seen, shock, I should say, inverted stick with slip screens on occasion, as well as other varieties of sticks. So pretend this is a 2x2 formation. We have another guy over here where it would be, kind of a tight formation, stick swap, where you're just swapping the responsibilities around a little bit, playing with the tight condensed leverage to create opportunities there, as well as stout. So again, pretend this is a 2x2 set. And then we have fighting for leverage, but, also having out route. So that is our threat towards the flat while we still have, that type of thing. So stout was paired with the 3-man combo triangle, which is a variation of the snag concept. So normal snag or spot concept would be, flat, corner, spot. But what we do on triangle, we are replacing that with a dig. So that is just the terminology in my system. So, you had stout, triangle, a decent amount. But here we're talking about Y shock. So with that linebacker playing outside leverage and potentially trying to wall off this vertical route, and this safety being basically 11, 10 yards away from where we're trying to go, even if he is a late rotation buzz or if he is a true cover 4 corner, or cover 4 safety, that is just too much cushion for us to ignore. So here, boom, pitch and catch. But all in all, again, a very, very muted look for a very, very simple design within this offense. Okay, this is a pretty nice completion on a very, very crucial 4th down play against Tennessee. So this is a cross swap design. So you will see this across the SEC in these semi-stack or, condensed split 2-man formations where normally on cross, you will see the inside guy being the crosser with the outside guy being the dig man, curl to space, or bang 8 post route. So obviously with swap, we're reassigning the routes to where they switch responsibilities. So this is going to be an example of that versus cover 3 buzz. So cover 3 buzz for defensive purposes, our flank defender and our strong safety are swapping positions. On normal cover 3, it'd be something like that. Here, it's going to be like that. So with that, that's going to put pressure on this deep third defender because the next closest help defender is a long way away. So with the defense being pulled naturally by the flood action towards the left, we're able to snake up in a hole, and we deliver a strike for our conversion. So we'll also show this from behind the center view, but cross in general, yeah, not really a highly featured concept whatsoever within this offense. Only 10 targets in meaningful minutes, but it did deliver 6 successful completions, even though only one play featuring cross went for 20 plus yards, and it was on a check down. So this being one of the better completions just in terms of situations, that's why I wanted to draw it up. Cross in general was one of the more highly featured looks against Tennessee. Also against Georgia State, 4 other games had 2 reps. Again, nothing you see every week from this offense. In addition to, this kind of wacky cross swap pattern, it was also paired with the corners concept. So smashes. So a traditional smash is a corner curl, but corners concept, we're swapping that around. That's kind of a theme of this video, swapping things around. Is like that. So flat corner as opposed to corner hitch. Still having a two-man high-low along the sideline to try and beat zone coverages. So again, enough of that. We're here to talk about cross. So we'll see how this play works out here. So again, compromised, pulled to the flat, pulled up towards the middle of the field, inconsequential. That is just too much real estate for our deep third corner over here to carry. And we deliver a strike to get a conversion. So again, like I promised, from behind the center, up, over, back, pulls these guys, snakes up right there for our gain. All right, the levels concept. This is the lone explosive completion that it generated for this offense this past season, but it is a doozy. It's still finished among this offense's most successful concepts in successful minutes. So we're going to talk about it one way or another, but it is, like a lot of pass patterns, with a deep dig towards the middle of the field, pretty good against 2 deep coverages when you have the appropriate complements. On this play, it is pairing levels from trips formations or levels tray with Haas, a patented, simple curl seam combo that is naturally good against zones. So here we go against this side of the formation with a 3-man front and this man responsible for half of the field. He naturally has to play a little conservative. He has to suspect maybe one or both of these guys are going to attack deep. So he has to at least play with outside vertical leverage. Even though both of these guys working short, he has to play for that potential. But playing for that potential basically dooms him, because with outside leverage, this deep dig is going to come open and we're going to deliver a strike, since our middle seam is going to occupy our other deep safety. So all in all, levels featured on 21 snaps and it drew 13 targets. Again, this is the lone explosive rep. In addition to pairing it with Haas, it was also paired with an unders concept. So stuff like that. So all in all, let's let it roll out. See, against this cover 4 coverage, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, underneath, they're going to peek. We're going to get beyond this guy and inside this guy for a very, very, very nice completion. Boom. Before wrapping up this offense, I wanted to give a little bit of a shout out to true screens, which were featured on 7.3 of this offense's meaningful minute plays. And the Convoy Screen was their most popular. By volume in our meaningful minute sample, it generated 22 tries, which would have been the third most popular pass pattern. So, screens, it's an idea to try and deal with kind of so-so line play that allows a lot of havoc, and you're just trying to get the ball to a playmaker's hands in space. And this is a great example of that. Line doesn't necessarily block it to perfection, like a few other reps we had drawn up, but it's just going to be a fantastic rep from Juice Wells to make a few guys miss and get a 42-yard touchdown here. So, backside off of this play action, we're trying to sell that and then seal them, preventing any help rallying down the line of scrimmage. Jet motion here is going to help pull this defender a little bit towards the box to where our leakers, who are initially going to try and sell that run action before they get upfield, to try and help their leverage opportunities a little bit. But like I said, it's not necessarily executed all that well from the offensive line. Ideally, in my opinion, since it is a 3 versus 3 matchup, you cannot see, but there is a corner off the screen here. I like my end man, my jailbreaker, to pick up that corner. And I like a little bit of a order of operations from the inside. He would then pick up that linebacker, and the center would work toward the safety or spill elements trying to rally from the backside. But we'll see here, it's not necessarily a good job. Too flat of a path initially from our tackle. He's going to have to engage this linebacker. It throws off our guard, and even though they eventually get a hat-on-a-hat downfield, you'll see right away at the point of attack, this should not have been a 42-yard rep. Josh Vann is our point man here. Questionable decision. He's not a big receiver. He's not a physical receiver. He doesn't necessarily like to get his jersey dirty too much, and he allows an opportunity for a tackle for a loss. And our untouched corner comes down with a head of steam, and he cannot make a play just because he doesn't seem willing to make the tackle. He's in position. He's right there. He's untouched. He just does not make the effort to make the play. And we'll watch it play out here, and we'll see. Again, the jet motion pulls our man a little bit inside. Down, 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 down. And just look at that flat path. That's way too flat. His eyes are going towards somebody who's already being engaged. So he pulls a mid-play audible. He's like, I'm not going to get there. He's just going to try and snake back on our linebacker where our guard was initially working for that landmark. So because he takes the flat path, that's eventually who he's going to go. Good awareness from our guard to then work up towards our middle safety, who is trying, after being influenced this way from some of the action, to work back on the play. He does not, and like I said, because our other corner comes up untouched, does not make a play, our numbers advantage ends up being just okay for the offense. So either way, though, I don't love the grab and pull technique where it completely turns the offensive lineman towards a defensive perspective, looking at your quarterback, and you can kind of see it's a borderline clip here from on our edge here. He might have gotten away with something here. But yes, here, Carrington Valentine in position to make the tackle. Yeah, that's not going to cut it, man, if you're trying to get drafted by an NFL team. A fairly okay effort to work through contact here, but it's just too messy of a rep with a guy basically yakking his jersey to make the play. Juice Wells then finds our crease with our kick out and our seal on that Sam linebacker and our safety. And then once we get to that crease, yeah, there's no one touching us there.
So there you have it. Definitely not a perfect offense, but not the worst in the conference either. An average, mid offense with some good ideas, but just execution was just lacking more often than not. Still, we find ourselves in the middle of the offseason, and I hope you found that fairly informative, whether you were a casual fan or a coach looking to steal some ideas. With us being in the middle of the offseason, though, I wanted to continue to invite you to visit SECStatCat.com, where you can see past charts of every SEC quarterback or anyone who has taken a pass attempt, fun filters based on situation, concept breakdowns, and a lot of other fun information that can help you become more informative on your favorite SEC program, or if you're a gambler, find a little bit of an edge in terms of statistics. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at SECStatCat, or smash a follow on this YouTube channel at SECStatCat. But until next time, I am Clark Brooks to remind you all to have a good one.